Welcome back to Moving Forward. Now we are joined by Abbie Apsel, who is a music student and violin player here at the University of Akron. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Can you start by telling us how long and when you started playing the violin?
I have been playing violin for 15 years. I started when I was 4 years old, around the same time I started school, kindergarten, and that feels like forever ago. And I started studying with a teacher, a Russian teacher. Her name was Eugenia, and she was really scary.
So now most people, typically students, start at a later age. How did you start so young?
I have a very musical family. There's about 50 of us in all, and most of us play instruments or sing and do something musical, and so it was kind of a natural thing that I just started early because that's what my family was involved in. So I just got involved, and then I never wanted to stop.
What are some of the things that you've participated in playing the violin?
I participated in a lot of different festivals at home. I'm from New York, so a lot of different festivals, orchestras. I've also done a ton of solo work with like pianists. I performed. I do a lot of church services, which is nice. I get to go and play for mass or something like that. And then I've also done All-State, which is like a thing for New York where they pick like the best musicians in the state, and they come and we spend a weekend and you play with like an orchestra with everybody else, and that's a good time.
Can you explain kind of what the festivals and what some of these activities entail?
A lot of them involve, you get like a package of music, and then you go and you learn that music, and then in about a month later everyone comes together for a weekend and you just do very intense work with an orchestra, and you spend a lot of time practicing, and there's a conductor, usually a guest conductor, comes in and you work with them, and then at the end of the weekend you perform a concert. Other things could involve, I've gone for 10-day programs where you go and all you do is practice. You wake up in the morning at 8 and you practice until lunch, and then you have lunch for an hour, and then you go and practice, and then at night you do what you call a master class, where you go in and you play for your peers and for like guest artists, and they give you like help and stuff like that. So they could range from a lot of different things that you can do.
What challenges do you feel you've encountered during this journey?
A lot of it is self-awareness. You need to have the integrity to, get up in the morning and practice for 6 hours a day. That's something that a lot of younger students struggle with because, small kids don't have that much of an attention span. So you start off and you have an hour, and then, a couple of years later you bump it up to 2 hours, you bump it up to 4 hours, and I still have problems, waking up on a Saturday morning at 10 and wanting to get in the practice room for 6 hours. I don't want to do that, but so that's a problem that I think most people would face. And then me individually, I think I just faced an issue where I have an older sister who also plays violin, and so we had a little bit of a competition type thing, or I did. She didn't really care. So that's something that I dealt with. Was you have to be very confident in yourself to be a musician. You can't expect other people to like boost you up, because there's just so many musicians in the world who are all incredibly talented that you have to be your own booster seat, or else no one else is gonna help you out. And so that's something that I had to deal with.
What kept you moving through all of these different obstacles that you mentioned?
My mother. When you're young, your parents kind of push you into practicing every day. They say you're not allowed to do this until you practice your violin, and so that was kind of helped. But then as I got older, it was just, I really enjoyed playing. It's a very good emotional outlet. It helps me make friends with very similar interests, and so you just want to get better and play with these people that and have a good time. So, and then of course there's always those goals. There's different things you can go in as a musician, and for a while I thought I wanted to be a performer. I wanted to go and become famous someday, and so that kind of pushes you, because to do that you have to be really, really good. And so that kind of pushed me to getting up every day and doing what I had to do.
How many hours a week? I know you mentioned 6 hours on Saturday. How much do you put in general?
It kind of depends on the day and how many classes I have. Today, on a Monday, I woke up at 7:30. I had class, and then I practiced for 2 hours, and then I grabbed lunch, and then I had another 2-hour practice session, and then I had a rehearsal for an hour, and then I had another class where I actually played my violin for an hour, and then I practiced for another hour. So 5-6 hours in total of me playing violin today.
So, but with all of this practicing, what rewards do you feel you take out of it?
It's what I like to do. I couldn't do anything else. You know, I'm taking a physics class right now for my general education classes, and I sit there and I don't really care about it. So it's one of those things where it's just, that's what I love to do. And I take out of the fact that I can walk into the practice room, and after that first initial me not really wanting to practice, after like the first half an hour, I'm having a good time, and it kind of ropes you in, and it makes you feel good about yourself, and you're working very hard, and it's a very good mental, like, can't think of the word I want to say. It's a very good like mental obstacle course almost, and so it makes you feel fulfilled at the end of the day because you know you worked really hard.
And when you're in the practice room, what kind of things are you critiquing?
Everything. Because violin is a two-handed instrument, is what I would like to say anyway. There are instruments, you know, similar to like the flute or the saxophone where you have keys, and so your hands are doing basically the same thing, and you have already set places. Violin is two-handed because your two hands are doing completely different things at the same time. One hand is doing a bowing motion, and the other hand is just finger motions, and that's something that you have to be very aware of. Almost every muscle in your body, from your fingertips on each hand all the way across your back and down to the other fingertips on your hand. So you work on stuff like that where you're self-aware of your body, and then you have to critique, you have to also include the ears in that, and listening and becoming very experienced with that. And then of course you have to feel it in your heart and figure out what you want the music to sound like, and that is partly individual choice and kind of what has been said as the status quo for certain types of music. So there's a lot of things that go into playing violin, and I mean every instrument really. All instruments have that same type of deal. It's different things what you have to focus on. But yeah.
Moving on to music education, and not just the violin, but any instrument, what's your opinion on young students or any student learning instruments and music?
I think music is probably one of the most important things that we could teach young students, mostly because it's been proven 1,000 times over that it increases mental capacity. It helps to have them learn other things better because they're learning an instrument. It makes you much more self-aware as a human being about being part of a group, especially if they're playing in a orchestra or a band or singing in a choir. It makes them able to work with others. It makes you able to look inside yourself and figure out, you know, what's going on with yourself. It helps you study better because once you learn how to practice for even an hour a day, for people who just want to be amateurs and, you know, play in a group, that hour a day teaches you incredible focus. And that's something that a lot of students don't get these days because they don't have some sort of thing that can train them how to focus. That's why study habits are going downhill, because they don't have that ability to sit down for an hour and sit and do one thing. When an instrument, as long as the student enjoys the instrument they're playing, can teach them that in 2 years. Practice an hour every day for 2 years, and then they'll know how to focus for that long. And then you can sit other things in front of them so they can do that.
Being involved in music since you were very young, how has it influenced your life overall? So far?
So far. It's influenced my life a lot because I mean, the easiest thing is I've made the friends that I want to make who have similar interests than me. You know, I go to these festivals and these places, and I go to a school of music, and I make friends with people who have such similar interests, and we all get along so well. And then it's also kind of the perfect emotional outlet. Every human being deals with traumas, you know, whether it's a death in a family or something personal, and music acts as a way for you to kind of deal with those issues, I've found, because I've dealt with a lot of things in my life that people don't always have to deal with, and I found that during those times I can just take my violin and sit down and practice for a couple hours, and I can just kind of work through what I need to work through by emoting that through the music I'm playing.
Where do you want to see music education move to in the future?
I would almost love to see music education move to a point where it is helping not just regular students. I am starting to look at grad schools as a junior here at the university, and my plan for grad school is to go into music therapy. And I would love to research the idea of helping mentally handicapped people by teaching them a musical instrument, because it's been proven so many times that you can take a regular average student and give them a musical instrument, and then that improves their mental capacity. So why can't that help someone who is mentally handicapped? And that's where I'm headed right now, hopefully.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And coming up, we're actually going to have a chance to listen to you play the violin. But right now, let's look at some other students here at the university and what they're thinking of music.
Classically trained in the art of music and in the art of jazz too.
Music's the only universal language in the world. It teaches you, it helps you be more creative.
Music's such a big part of like our society. It gives children the opportunity to be expressive if they're not very expressive with art. I think every school should be required to have their kids do some form of like music education.
The aesthetic experience is amazing. The overall feeling and joy I get from music can't be matched anywhere else.
Really, I just enjoy playing music. It's my passion. I just really enjoy it. It's so much fun.
When I was younger, I never would have thought music would have been my path, and if I never would have had it in school, I never would have taken it. End of story.
This is D2, ready, and 1.
Abbie, your hard hours at work are definitely paying off. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Today we learned about music education and musicians playing individually to a large group of musicians playing as a marching band. We thank you for watching us today. Be sure to like us on Facebook, ZTV Moving Forward, and visit us online at ztvmovingforward.com, and we'll see you next time.